Head of the English Department, Dr. D.JOCKIM, Assistant Professor of English, St.Xavier's College, Dr. GIGY J. Alex, Associate Professor, IIST, and Ms. ANJALI A.R., Doctoral Researcher, to light the lamps. Lamp of guidance. Lamp of enlightenment. Lamp of wisdom. Lamp of knowledge. Lamp of love. Please be seated.
Dignitaries on the dais, dear colleagues, participants from various colleges, and my dear students, a very warm good morning to one and all present here. First of all, I thank God Almighty whose grace has been with us to organize this seminar on this particular day. First of all, I welcome our principal in charge, Dr. D. Usha. Whenever we approach her to organize a program or seminar, whatever it is, she always gives her consent, and also she guides us, so what to do, how to plan things so that it will come out well. Thank you, ma'am, for all your guidance. On behalf of the Department of English, I welcome you, ma'am. Next, I welcome our correspondent, Dr. J. Asir Pakya Singh. He also never says no to any of our endeavors. Whenever we approach him, okay, he says, you go on. You conduct all those programs, whatever you want to do. So now also, since he is busy, he's unable to come over here because we have all the programs during the first week of April. So he's busy with that. Due to that, he's unable to come. So in spite of his absence, I welcome him. Next, I welcome the resource persons of the day. So we have three great people amidst us. One is Dr.GIGY, Assistant Professor of English, St.Xavier's College, Palayamkottai. Sir is a learner-centered professor in English language and literature. He has to his credit a number of papers. He has published books and also edited journals. He is a recipient of the NSS Volunteers Award. We are very happy to have him with us today. On behalf of the Department of English, I welcome you, sir. I'm happy to welcome Dr. GIGY J. Alex, faculty in the Department of Humanities and Social Science, Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, Trivandrum. So when Mrs. Jemi suggested her name, so I thought a person coming from such a great institute will be a very great person. So when I saw her, I found that she's very humble, she's a down-to-earth person. Moreover, I came to know that she is also an editor of a famous Malayalam journal. She's also interested in cultural studies and so on. Ma'am, we are very happy to have you with us to address our students on this day. Welcome you, ma'am. Next, I welcome Mrs. ANJALI, a doctoral researcher from All Saints College, Trivandrum. Her area of interest is also culinary studies. She's doing her research in Japanese literature. She tries to find out the space of kitchen in Japanese films. I think her address also would be quite interesting to you all. On behalf of the department, I welcome you, ma'am. Next, I welcome the organizing secretary, Mrs. Jemi Subetha boy, who made all arrangements. So for earlier, we fixed another date, but later due to all the programs we have in our college, we had to change the date. So within a short span of time, she made all the arrangements neatly. So I welcome you, ma'am. Next, I welcome my dear colleagues for their support and guidance. I welcome you all. I also welcome the staff and students, research scholars from other colleges, and also my dear own students and research scholars from our institution. Once again, I welcome you all. I wish you all to make use of the time today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your warm words of welcome. Now we welcome the head of the department.
Members of our college and other colleges, my dear students and research scholars, a hearty welcome to every one of you. I am honored to speak at this occasion as we gather here for the one-day national seminar on cuisine literature organized by our esteemed English department. It is truly heartening to witness the effort taken by the department in fostering intellectual discourse within our academic community. The chosen theme for today's seminar, centered around the intersection of literature and culinary delights, is captivating. My heartfelt congratulations to the English department for initiating such an engaging event. Initiatives of this nature enrich the students' knowledge and also empower them with indispensable skills crucial for their future endeavors. As we embark on this enlightening journey, I urge all the participants to fully immerse themselves in the proceedings. Seminars such as these offer more than just theoretical knowledge. They provide a platform for practical application too. The expertise gained here will undoubtedly foster your academic and professional pursuits. I extend my best wishes to each participant for a fruitful and gratifying journey ahead. Let us remember that education goes beyond the mere accumulation of facts. It is about utilizing knowledge judiciously. Seize every opportunity to refine your skills and broaden your understanding. In the words of Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. May the seminar serve as a catalyst for positive transformation and creative innovation. Embrace the challenges, glean wisdom from them, and let this experience chart your path towards success. Once again, my wishes to the English department for their visionary leadership, and I eagerly anticipate witnessing the enduring impact of this seminar on the academic and the personal paths of our participants. Thank you, and may this seminar be a source of enlightenment and inspiration for all in attendance. As the English department, the Rockers of Women's Christian College, I wish the seminar a best one, a successful one. Wish you all the best. May God bless your endeavor.
Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful words. Literature is the key to our soul. Language, the key to our hearts. Today, we have with us Dr. D.JOCKIM, Assistant Professor of English and Dean of Arts at St.Xavier's College in Palayamkottai, Tirunelveli. He is an accomplished professional in the field of language and literature. He has a keen interest in areas such as communicative English and diaspora literature. His accolades includes prestigious the Best NSS Volunteer Award with a notable track record in publications, editorial roles, academic committee memberships, and paper presentation. Dr. JOCKIM brings a wealth of knowledge and experience. I would like to invite him to deliver the keynote address.
Respected Principal in Charge, Dr. D. Usha, respected Dr.J.Subitha Persis, Convenor of this program and Head of the Department of English, the other two resource persons, Dr. GIGY Alex and Ms. ANJALI, the organizing secretary of this program, Ms.T.S, Raja, Jemi, Subetha boy, faculty members, research scholars from various colleges, and students from this college. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Hope you all had breakfast today. Yeah, of course we should have. When I came here, within few minutes I got a nice coffee from the department. Right. Thank you, ma'am, for that. Well, my presentation today will have these 10 parts. Of course, I will not take much time. First, I will embark on some questions related to the topic. Then 4 kinds of food in books, gastro-diplomacy, descriptions of culinary studies, food waste, some aspects beyond literature, culinary triangle, the global impact, some sample passages from literary texts. First, let me explain the topic. Relishing literature with culinary, an exploration of cuisine literature across cultures. Of course, we cannot avoid food, right? So without food, there is nothing. A person may be a very good pious one, with all the strong beliefs, dogmas, but for a few days, if there is no food, that person cannot survive. So the life ends there. In the month of January, we had a conference in our college in which writer Bama was the resource person. In interaction, when one question was asked, so what about food like that? She simply replied, food is the very base of any human being. Because if a person does not eat, that person cannot survive. All other things cannot take place. So providing food is the very base of human life. So I take that thing. So when this particular topic is taken, a few questions come to us. The first one, what is in food? What is in food? when this question is asked, different answers will come. Then should we really consider food as part of literature? So what is the connection between literature and food? Is there any literariness in food? For example, when we go to a shop or any hotel, so do we expect food in an ordinary way? So the food is presented in the most beautiful possible way. So that's why it is more attractive. See, so when we eat, we do not eat it separately. Sambar, rice, then vegetables. So together it goes to one place. So why don't we do everything mix and take? We do not. So there is some aesthetics in presenting food, right? Then can culinary be part of literary studies? Culinary, the food. Then in this context, let me quote one particular person, Jean Anthem Millet Savrin. So very beautifully he says, tell me what you eat, I'll tell you who you are. Is it possible? Tell me what do you eat, I will tell you who you are. Just to imagine, what is the connection between your characteristics and what do you eat? Of course, the people who eat too much, after 40 they will get all the disease, right? They will become diabetics. So people who eat too much of sweet, after 40 they will stare at sweet. No sugar, like that. And people eat too much of oil. Afterwards, they will eat without oil. So there is poetic justice. When you get too much, so in the second part of your life, you have to avoid it. So the point is, so food is something not restricted to eating alone. It is beyond eating. It is something rooted in culture. It talks about the way we live in this world. Then in this context, so one side there is food, another side culture and literature. If we understand what is culture and what is literature, we will understand the relationship between culture, literature and this food. What is culture? A set of belief, practice or practices followed by a group of people, and over a period of time when the same set of belief and practices are followed, that becomes part and parcel of culture. When more persons are involved in that habit, it becomes a group activity. Then slowly over the period of time, the repetitive practice becomes culture. Then what is literature? So literature is something that to be right, it is a kind of art form. So whatever we record with some aesthetics in the form of words, that becomes literature. So literature mirrors society, and society is getting reflected in literature. So literature and society and literature and culture cannot be separated. Similarly, so when a writer starts writing about something, so naturally, so the food habits are also included in that. So in the course of narration, I'll be saying all these things. So the relationship between culture and literature, then afterwards the relationship of these two with food are interlinked. We cannot separate food from literature. We cannot separate culture from literature. So they are almost together. The next question that arises at present, does food communicate? We communicate to one another. Does food communicate? In the evening, when we go home with all the tiredness, when the coffee smell comes, unfortunately, many people, we have to go and make that coffee. Some people, they are very happy to eat in hotels and other places. though they are very good cooks, they hesitate to eat their own food because the same kind of things. So the point what I am trying to convey is, does food communicate? Of course, the research says and the reality says food communicate. So it can communicate the good things, it can communicate the problems, and it can communicate the bad things. In Tamil, there is a beautiful idea like this. How long you can stay as a guest in somebody's house? Especially this is the advice given to grooms. After marriage, they will go for all the celebrations, and how long one can stay there. It is said like that. When you see your face on the food, you vacate the place. That means first few days with all the beautiful biryani, other things, all vegetarian, non-vegetarian will come. If you happen to stay there for a period of time, probably one day morning you will find that morning rice with water over there, and there you will get reflected. So you find that is the right time, you leave the place. Of course, food communicates according to the situation. In this context, there are 4 kinds of food in books. This is an article that came in the New Yorker in 2007, written by Adam Kopnick. 4 kinds of food in literature. First, food that is served by an author to characters who are not expected to taste it. The description of food. You should have read so many short stories, you should have read so many novels, and you should have witnessed so many dramas also. Just recall, what are the food items you came across? What are the beautiful descriptions that came there? So the writers describe those food. Second, food that is served by an author to the characters in order to show what they are. The economic background of a character can very well be understood by the food that is served to the characters over there. From Charles Dickens, Shakespeare. So take any work, at least there will be one scene or one description about food will be there. That will talk about, or that will expose, that will portray the nature of the character, the social rank of that character can be seen. Then the third one, food that an author cooks for characters in order to eat it with them. Sometimes the food communicate in a very beautiful way. Even we get the flavor of that eating. Of course, when we write something on the biryani, that very word gives a kind of, it may not satisfy our hunger, but that very thought of today afternoon there will be a beautiful biryani. Then that idea, it gives a sense of satisfaction. The fourth one, food that an author cooks for characters but actually serves to the reader. So this is the part that I would like to focus on here. The very art of writing book is also like writing a cooking. So the people, even I used to tell my students, both male and female, learn cooking. For male members, I used to say, you may go to different places, at least for survival, you just learn. For female members also, I say the same thing. You do not know what kind of husband you get. He may not cook. So at that time, at least you have to cook for yourself. If not for that fellow, you have to cook for yourselves. Learn cooking. It is not only an art. It is. So here, the author, in the process of writing the book, so it is compared, the process of writing the book is the process of cooking. If anything goes beyond the requirement, or anything that is not added that will spoil the taste of the food. Like that, in a book, if it is not beautifully synthesized with the proper ingredients, the characters, the incidents, the descriptions, the analysis, then the book will be incomplete. So in this context, according to the author, Adam Kopkin, there are 4 kinds of food in books. Then go to the third thing. So I hope you are seeing. So you see 2 pictures there. What is the first one? Any guess for that? Probably the first, yeah, like milkshake. So that is, it is jigardanda, a beautiful drink. Jigardanda, it should remind you a particular place. What is that? Madurai. That's it. So whenever I come to Nagercoil, probably today I missed it. If I come to Nagercoil by bus, the first thing I just do that in the bus stand is, I will go to any shop to eat that. What is special there? Yes, that, what is that? That Palabaji, right? That's what I like. Because that is not that much tasty in our place, right? And here, see, earlier I was talking about does food communicate? Food communicates. Food communicates. So when I say the word alva, we need not anybody ask anybody in Tamil Nadu, they will say Tirunelveli. So the point is, so food communicates certain culture, food communicates certain taste, food communicates a message. Then the other one, so that drumstick bunch I have get. So here it is a food item for the Western people. So this is the most important nutritious food. All the parts of a particular plant there, that is drumsticks, then leaves, all these things. But the entire narrative of drumstick is different in Tamil Nadu because of one particular movie played by Bhagyaraj. So that is entirely different. So the thing is, so they can communicate different ideas. Let me read out that. So this is the context. We have to learn one particular word, gastro-diplomacy. So gastro-diplomacy means how one communicates one's culture through food, and how one reaches out to foreign audiences and share the culture, history and heritage through food. So to know the culture, we need not read only books. We need not go to any heritage center. So just by reading and analyzing how a set of people eat, that can be understood well. So the writers have very well utilized this fact and they have done it beautifully well. Now, so far I have described just what is literature, what is culture, what is the relationship between literature and culture. Now, coming to culinary studies. There are 2 things, culinary narratives and culinary studies. Culinary narrative means when a creative author uses food as one of the themes, that is culinary narratives. So there are poems that talks about food. There are poems that talk about drinks, right? So the reference to food item and using food item for the narration or writing any creative work, that is called culinary narrative. Then what is culinary studies? Culinary studies mostly focuses on the relationship between the culture and the food items or food aspects that are expressed in a creative work. The relationship between the food item narrated or portrayed and how they represent culture. So that is called culinary studies. In this context, let me give one particular idea by Anderson. How many of our food ways are determined by biology and how many by culture? The food ways, just I will explain a little bit later. So when do we take food? How many are defined by biology and culture? Every day we eat. Every day we eat. That is our biological need. Then how many by culture? Do we eat any food based on our culture? Just I throw this question to you. Do we eat any food just because of the culture? I hope many of you are here are Christians. Christians, mostly during the Lent season, they do not kill animals and birds, right? They just go vegetarian. Fine. It is a religious, cultural practice. So almost in the same season, Muslims, they also follow that. And in the morning, in the daytime, 6 to 6, they will not eat. They will not even swallow their saliva. But before that and after that, they will eat. So veg, non-veg, that goes well. So this is called, so this is eating food by culture. When an author quotes these things in literature, that is culinary narrative, number one. Then what becomes culinary studies? When a critic or when an author uses that particular idea of food and cultural practice to describe the cultural practices of a particular race or group, then that becomes culinary studies. Then another thing, by Anderson in the book Everyone Eats, Understanding Food and Culture, published in 2014, I quote, "Human food ways are a complex result of the interaction of human nutritional needs, ecology, human logic and historical accident." How food evolves over the period of time. Nutritional needs, of course. Even when you are students, the parents will not allow you without eating. So well need. Ecology, mostly we eat food based on the raw materials available in this region. So that is based on ecology. So the food that are available, based on that we eat. Third one, human logic. Here comes human intervention. Thanks to Corona, many people started cooking well. How that transformation took place, you know, no hotels were available. And YouTube, thanks to YouTube, they just play and try, and then both men and women started cooking. That was a nice gesture to live. Of course, in my home also we tried burrata. We believed it was burrata. So the point here is, what I am trying to convey is a very simple fact. So the food is decided by our nutritional needs, ecology and human logic. Some people are so good at their logic, they invent new recipes, right? Okay, this and that, something, it comes so beautifully well. Then certain things are by historical accident. So based on this historical accident, serendipity, I'll quote an example a little bit later. So here what I am trying to convey is a very simple fact. So food is decided by different factors. So needs, ecology, logic, and some historical accident. When these aspects are highlighted in literary work, then that becomes culinary narratives. Then the next one, Roland Barthes, in his work Mythologies, says, food, so that is food is not only a collection of products that can be used for statistical or nutritional studies, it is also and at the same time a system of communication. This is the point. Food is a system of communication, a body of images, a protocol of usages, situations, and behavior. According to Roland Barthes, this quote, So food is not ordinary. Food is not meant only for eating. It can go beyond that and it will convey a lot of ideas, and it is not just an image. It is a cultural representation. Then coming to my fifth point, food waste. This was the term first utilized by the folklorist to refer to the connection between food related to behavior patterns of membership in cultural community, group and society. I would like to make a reference here. In some of the tribes, they will not cook separately. They will cook together and eat. Islam has got a beautiful idea. There is, during that seasons, when Ramzan and other time, so they have to share the food. They have to share the food. Then with whom they can share the food. So it is beautifully said. The smell of your food, reaches up to a distance, Up to that, people or your neighbors, you please give the food, share the food. So that is a beautiful thing. So food waste. Then Brad Kessler says, food in fiction engages all the reader's senses. Taste, touch, feel, sight, and smell. So here in culinary studies, this is an important aspect. Because when we read something as literature, so there are characters, there are incidents that may not help you or that may not engage you much. But when our senses are tied to these five senses, including taste, that helps you a lot. In this context, let me give you the name of one journal that is dedicated to culinary studies. Gastronomica, the Journal of Food and Culture. So it describes, it self-defines the journal itself as an eclectic journal that uses food as an important source of knowledge about different cultures and societies, provoking discussions and encouraging thoughtful reflection on history, literature, representation, and cultural impact of food. So what is cultural studies? So as part of cultural studies, these culinary studies say, so food is the important representation of different cultures. So in the same way, in the work, the literature of food, which was first published in 2006, it focuses on writing about food and eating. So these are the titles of some journals and some works that help us understand what is the relationship between culture and what is the relationship between culture and food. Now I have come to the next part. I hope there is a picture, sixth one. Go to the next one. Next one. You see some pictures over there, right? There are 5 pictures. So culinary studies goes beyond literary text. Number 1, that is, so students please respond. What do you find in the left at the top? Adam and Eve. See, if you take Christianity as a religion, you may be a believer or non-believer. The entire religion kick-started with one food. What is that? Apple. One person eats the apple, shares the apple generously, then that becomes wrong. I came across one interesting meme recently. What if Adam and Eve happened to be Chinese? The entire race would have been blessed. Why? She should have eaten the snake, left apple, so the original sin should not have come. So with that culinary point, that eating point, the fall of mankind started. Number 1. Number 2, that is also taken from religion. So anyone, could you decode that. Lord Shiva, Parvati, and Lord Ganesha, then Lord Muruga. So what is the problem there? The family was a beautiful family. The problem came in the family because of that food, one fruit. What is that? Mango. So mango is given to the parents. So the parents wanted to give it to one person. So that person should go around the world. And what happened? Lord Ganesh was so smart. Instead of going around the world, he just, dear parents, you are world, and he went around, got it. Then earlier I started the entire lecture with one question. What is there in food? Two religions face lot of problems because of one fruit. One apple in the Old Testament and one mango in Hinduism. Right? So that happens. The third, look at that tree, that tree, this is the tree that is found in this is the tree under which our Newton was there. Right? Now it is officially declared dead, and this is the present condition. Then, so science started, right? Science, theories came. So again it started with food. Then that another person with inventor of Apple, who is that? Steve Jobs, right? And see, with fall of one apple, that science came, but with that human beings fell, I would say. So most of the people, so that is the starting of origin of that smartphone, that is compilation of that internet computer in hand, right? That happened. Then finally another religious reference, what happened to, so what is that? That final one. That is Jesus Christ miracle. He just serves food to 5,000 people and some 12 baskets of food. My point is very simple. Culinary goes beyond literature, goes beyond life, goes beyond religion also. Then interestingly, the next one, so this picture, next picture, go to the next slide. This is the picture. Of course, people who are sitting at the back may not be able to see that properly. So we all celebrate parties for marriage. Anything we have party and food is served. Do you know how Romans used to have feast? The Romans used to eat throughout the night. How is it possible? How is it possible? It is said, so people have unearthed the documents related to Roman parties. So there will be drinks, there will be food of different kinds, they will eat. At one point, we cannot eat too much, we have to stop. They had the provision of vomiting also. They will eat, they will go to vomit, clear themselves, and come again start eating. So that is the reason in Christianity, gluttony is termed as one of the sins. So gluttony is overeating. So the Roman Empire, one of the reasons for the fall also, in spite of the political reasons, the gluttony over there, so the nighttime parties, they were ready to spend anything because that was a cultural symbol, status symbol. So when you embark on studies on this, that becomes culinary studies. When such lavish parties are mentioned, both in the ancient time and present time, that becomes the culinary narrative. Then seventh one. Let me give you some examples from literature. First, go to the next slide. Can anyone see what is that? Give me more. Give me more. So have you come across this particular phrase? That is Oliver Twist. Beautiful. I appreciate your knowledge of literature. That's good. So we have studied Oliver Twist from the sociological point of view, economical point of view, fine. So this particular phrase, give me more, that got reflected in English Parliament. So because after that, the Parliament ordered, so what is happening in different caretaking places? So food. So the character was forced to say that because he was hungry. He was not able to get the food that he requests. Then similar to that, there are a lot of literary works available. So the centrality of food to human experience and to personal and cultural identity is mirrored in the food preoccupations of literature. So in culinary studies, the centrality of food in any literature or literary piece is studied. Then coming to the next one, Levi-Strauss, in his work Table Manners, he very beautifully portrays one triangle, culinary triangle. So one side he places the raw food, the other side he places cooked food, and the other side he places the rotten one. In the culinary triangle given by Levi-Strauss in the book Table Manners, he places food, so that raw food at one side and cooked food and rotten food. So he points out the process. What is the natural thing available? That is food, raw food. So one side, the food can be eaten raw. The food can be eaten raw. The other side, food can be cooked and eaten. Anyhow, that is also going to rot in one form or other. So he compares this way of degradation and the process of food to culture also. So culture is there, and we either receive it as they are or we process it. So what he is trying to convey is in the book, raw and the cooked, and raw, so the culture is there, we accept certain things, or we process and we accept certain other things. Now coming to the last two slides of my presentation. Now so far I have presented in the second part of my talk. I was concentrating on important aspects like how theories can be applied to decode the cultures of a particular society. Now it has gone beyond a country. There is global impact. Is there any Western influence in the way that we eat now? Fast food. Especially this generation is so fond of fast food. I won't say that is wrong, but I won't say that is not right also. It is neither right nor wrong, because you will become parents later. When a parent allows the children to eat junk food, what is the meaning? It is obvious they are not that much interested in the health of the children. So when we go to doctors literally scold not the children but the parents. So because it has got health impacts. Nowadays the process of cooking, if you read books published before 20-30 years, mostly the cooking things are described. In some of the recent novels and narratives, it so happens people are ordering food through some online platform. So the news narratives also. So earlier, what happened? So somebody killed someone, so they were the news. Now the news item related to food delivery boys and wrong food item delivered, that they become the narratives. The point is, as I already told you at the description of reflection of society in literature or no. So this also happens slowly. According to theorists, there is global impact. When the online platforms and the Western way of lifestyle intrudes into the local culture, naturally the local food habit goes away, and naturally that affects health, and these aspects are getting reflected in the society. I would like to point out one political dimension of this. Arundhati Roy wrote a book called The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. Mostly talks about transgenders, but there one important aspect she points out. Some of the murders, political murders that take place, especially in that novel, one particular character who belongs to the lower community, he is taking a dead cow to go away. So that is to be buried. After skinned, it will be buried. So the vehicle comes nearby the police station. There is a checkpost. Police stops. The police asks for 50 rupees. Then the man replies, I will not get that much. I am going to bury it because it is a dead cow. But immediately when he refuses to give that money, he makes a phone call to the local politician and says, somebody has killed a cow. Then a group of people come and they beat him, and afterwards so there is a father and son. The father is killed in that beatings. So because it is said, so cow is a holy animal for Hindus and they have killed the cow, right? Then afterwards that son becomes a terrorist because he wants to take revenge for that. What I am trying to convey is this is a narrative. But when Arundhati Roy utilizes this incident to criticize one of the social evils in the society, that becomes a critic of the society. That is part of culinary studies. So what I am trying to convey is, anything that you study based on literature and anything that is associated with the point of food and literature, that becomes culinary studies. Now, just with one more example, I will conclude my talk. There is a beautiful essay by Desmond Morris, a little bit of what you fancy. And he talks about the mother. Actually, the author's mother used to eat, he says when the author's mother was in her 50s, she used to eat a lot, all items. So that drinks, everything, that cooked and raw items, everything. The author begins the essay that, I thought my mother will die soon. No author will begin the essay like that. I thought my mother will die soon. So when he concludes that essay, he says that my mother died last year at the age of 99. Then in that process he says, very beautiful. So it is a beautiful culinary narrative, I would say. So in that process he is talking about comfort eating, food and climate, fear of poisoning, religious faith, all these things. Where he points out only one thing. When you sit in front of the food, how should we eat? When we sit in front of the food, how should we eat? That is the important lesson given by Desmond Morris. Don't eat food with preoccupations. Will it increase my cholesterol? Will it increase my sugar level? Eat happily. It is biologically proven that a person who eats happily will get good digestion. In front of me, all of you are having tea and that samosa, good. Happily eat, so that will augment your digestion and that is good for health also because you are happy, I hope. Then one more example, that is the last one I have. Have you studied the essay, Dissertation upon the Roasted Pig? Very beautiful. This is the best example for serendipity. Serendipity means accidental discovery. So there what happens, I need not explain because you know the thing. The father leaves the son, leaves the pigs under the care of the son. Because of something happens, the entire pig or the family is burnt. And the boy is worried. So the pigs are not moving. So he goes nearby being a small boy, he goes nearby the pig and tries to wake it up, right? He touches it, but he burns his finger. Immediately, if we touch something very hot, what we do? We just keep it to cool our finger, right? Then he keeps it there. Then he finds something different. Again he touches. It is delicious. Then the father also comes. The father first scolds the son and he says this and that. Then he touches. This is how the eating of meat came into existence. This is how Charles Lamb describes. The point is very, very simple. No food is bad unless it is poisonous. But when these food items get reflected in society, then that is accepted by a group of people, it becomes a culture. When that culture finds a place, food culture finds a place in literature, that becomes culinary narrative. When we analyze that literature or the connection between food narrative and culture, that becomes culinary studies. Thank you for giving the opportunity.
Respected Subetha ma'am, Usha ma'am, Joachim sir, my dear friend ANJALI, my dear friend Jemi ma'am, my dear teachers and my dear students, thank you for this opportunity to come to your campus and to give a presentation on reading Culinary Fiction's discourse on healing. You had an excellent session on culinary literature by Dr.GIGY. So that means the ground is already set regarding what exactly you mean by culinary fiction, what do you mean by culinary narratives, what do you mean by culinary studies, and what exactly is the difference between narrative and study and all those things. So I will look at literature, and as you know, food studies are from different perspectives. For instance, Sir was mentioning about Jigar Tanda, right? So once when I visited Madurai Kamaraj University, after the lecture, some of the professors, they told me that, ma'am, we will go to Madurai. So I thought, okay, I'll go to some shops from where I could purchase something. Madurai cotton is very famous. Okay. Then, but they were mentioning about Jigar Tanda. So it's something very special to Madurai and all. But I'm from Kerala, I am from Thiruvananthapuram. So there is a very famous sweet shop, Sri Nanda. So now, when you go to that sweet shop, you could find a board, Jigar Tanda available here. So that means Jigar Tanda is started displacing from being a Madurai snack to that of a Thiruvananthapuram snack. Every day, the food is getting displaced from its own place of origin to other places. Food is always in this sort of movement. So we can say that food is studied and discussed from the perspective of history, from the perspective of anthropology, archaeology, etc., etc. But as a literature scholar or a student, I would like to look at it from the perspective of culture or cultural studies. For instance, when you go through a short story where food depictions are there, we can see that sometimes it is considered as a transforming agency. The way in which certain people approach certain food stuff It's again, it is not just food alone. When you look at culinary literature, it deals with the food. For example, sambar, dosha. Again, it deals with the culinary space. It could be the kitchen space. It could be the dining area. It could be a restaurant or a hotel where we used to visit. Again, those who are the people associated with food. It could be our mother or father or wife or husband, or whoever engages themselves with the food and the food spaces. Then, of course, the food representations. So, when you go through the literary representation of food stuff, which means recipes, food materials, food people, food spaces, we can say that they engage themselves as transforming agency. For example, there is this, next slide. There is this very famous novel by Isaac Dinesen, Babbitt's Feast. It's a novel and later it was made into a movie as well. You can see that it happens in an island, in a village. There, a famous chef comes to that village, a lady, and she spends her entire fortune to prepare beautiful French dinner. So, a particular community who weren't familiar with any sort of delicacies, who always thrived upon very meager kind of meals and all, just like our porridge, who are always familiar with very bland taste, they are given an opportunity to have some 4 or 5 course dinner with all sort of fancy dishes and all. A person who is a stranger, she spends her entire fortune to prepare that beautiful, memorable dinner to a strange community. There isn't any kind of attachment between the chef and again that people, it's a community where 2 sisters are taking care of the entire people. They don't have any kind of awareness regarding who this lady is. Only thing is that they gave an accommodation to this lady. She spends her entire fortune to that community. Through taste, through food, she tries to establish a connection. So we can say that it performs as an agency to reach out to that new community. Again, there are certain stories or novels where we could find food interactions as agencies to resist patriarchy. Ladies' Coupe is an excellent example. Maybe you might have read this novel by Anita Nair, one of our very famous Indian English writers. There is this particular character, Evangeline, who prepares all sorts of sweets to her husband. Again, that act of preparation is not an act of love. There is even a saying that the way to a man's heart is through mouth. But if that man knows cooking, be careful. Okay, so here what happens is a husband and wife, and how it becomes some sort of a broken kind of an affair, and how the wife retaliates. Her act of cooking is an act of resistance. And there is this very famous novel, which was again adapted into a movie, novel by Laura Esquivel. You might have already read this novel. Its title is Like Water for Chocolate. Those who haven't read, please read. The interesting thing is that it has 12 chapters. The 12 chapters means 12 months of an year. Each chapter begins with a recipe. So that is how the novel is structured. So before this particular genre of food studies, recipe was not considered as a literary kind of narrative. Recipe is purely technical. It gives, the basic ingredients of a dish. Okay. So, what is so special about a recipe? The way in which the recipe is narrated, it speaks what are the ingredients and how we are cooking and what could be the end product. Again, in this novel, we can say that this sort of narration is again an act of resistance against patriarchy, against domesticity, against institutionalization. So we can say that literature looks at, or literature is an agency where food is considered as food or food spaces is considered as an active participant to engage with the characters and the readers as well. So in today's presentation, I would like to look at one particular concept, that is the aspect of healing. All of us know that healing means the cure. It could be the physical healing and also the mental or the spiritual healing. So here, what I mean by healing is not physical, but our personal healing. So if you want to get healed, there should be some traumas. There should be some hurts. So these hurts may happen in so many ways. Some sort of childhood incidents that happened, and those memories are a kind of trauma. When we think about those incidents through those memories, that itself is a trauma. So there are so many novels and short stories. Directly they are not saying that, come on, this novel is about a trauma, or this novel or short story is about a healing. No. We as readers could read it as a healing process. How is it possible? That is what I would like to consider in this presentation. So when you look at food, as Sir has explained beautifully through the arguments of Claude Lévi-Strauss and Barthes, and when you look at many of the prominent food critics like Mary Douglas, Sidney Mintz, these are Roland Barthes. There are some of the writers and critics who have mentioned or who have looked at food or the act of dining or the meal itself as a language. The way in which the food is presented before us, it has a language. It is communicating something to us. So I would like to look at food from two perspectives. One, from a societal aspect or a social level, and another in a personal level. When you look at it from a social perspective, for example, the diet of a community, the way in which when you mention the names of idli or sambar to somebody from Delhi, maybe you may be from Kerala, or you may be from Chennai, or you may be from Nagercoil, but when you mention that I prefer to have idli or I prefer to have dosha, they'll say that they don't say that you are from Nagercoil. They say that, oh, you South Indian. So we South Indians have a common sort of diet, but we know that there are subcategories. The way you prepare sambar is totally different from the way somebody from, I won't say somebody from Kerala. Within Kerala, we have 14 districts, we have 14 varieties of sambar. Yeah, that's a fact. Certain people will add grated coconut, roasted coconut. Certain people won't add that. Sambar itself has a beautiful history. Again, it is not an invention of Malayalis. Okay, so when you look at food from a social perspective, the first thing that we have to keep in mind is the diet of a community. When you think about our diet and how it is depicted in the food narratives, the diet always carries food memories. So when you look at this aspect of healing, it has a lot to do with memories. It is actually David Sutton. David Sutton is a very prominent food critic who have looked at the significance of memories and food representation. So he says that memories are deeply social. They are being shaped by our interactions with other humans, objects, and institutions. They help in constructing the rich tapestry of individual and social life. Here he mentions about food memories. Again, it is actually in his essay, Synesthesia, Memory and the Taste of Home. He was actually looking at a particular community from the Greek society and how the food preparations actually connect to the people. For example, when you look at the youngsters or the people who are living in the contemporary society, only when they think about certain celebrations or feast, they want to go back. Physically, they can't go back, but they recreate the past through certain food preparations that we all are familiar with. Whenever we celebrate during festival seasons, the way in which we prepare food, at that time we think about our grandmothers. At that time we think about our childhood taste. So we are in a hurry to recreate those childhood tastes. So that recreation of childhood taste through memories and through food preparations is an act of healing. Could be read as an act of healing. I'll give you two examples. One is, there is this very famous writer, M.T. Vasudevan Nair. He has written about his childhood days, his grandmothers, his family, his ancestral family, Taravadu. And there is this very famous book which could be translated as The Nights of Grandmothers. In Malayalam it says Muttashchimarude Ratrigal, the nights of grandmothers. In this particular work, he speaks about his childhood memories, especially kanji. Kanji is our porridge. Okay, so he says that there are different varieties of kanji. But I used to taste one particular variety of kanji. Now, at this age, when I remember about that kanji or that porridge that I had at one point of time, that recollection is not about my own memories. I could connect with my grandmothers. I could connect with my aunties who used to, my mother who was struggling hard to make a better kanji for me, because at that time also rationing was there. Though it was a matrilineal family, the patriarch will decide how much of rice you have to give to cook per day. There was rationing. The keys, he will carry the key. Okay, so though the women are cooking, they don't have that kind of a freedom to spend as they like. That kind of freedom wasn't there. So there is this, now when you look at food, there is this idea of choices or lavishness. At that time, it was not that, it was very meager. You have to satisfy with that limited quantity of food that is given to you. So, taste was so precious. Food was so precious. So, when we as readers, when we go through those memories that MD recollects about his own grandmothers or his own ancestral family, we could say that this character, he is so strong because of the strength given by these memories. So taste is a strengthening factor, not just taste, the memories regarding the taste is a strengthening factor. The same thing is narrated by another very famous writer, Punattil Kunyabdulla. He was a doctor as well. He speaks about the northern Kerala, the history of, especially when you look at the Muslim community, how was the food patterns there? He speaks about a time when, during his childhood, when they never used sugar to taste. Instead of sugar, they used jaggery. Sugar came later. So, in that history, this is actually the food history. Again, now we have this maida flour. when you look at there was another name for Maida. Now, though we use the name Maida, it was not known as Maida in South India. It was known as American Maava because it was imported from the US. So that is how food stuff carry certain, historical baggage along with that. So Punathul was saying that when, he speaks about how certain communities have their own, snacks or dishes. For example, puttu, the steam cake that we have. Puttu is a special dish for a particular community because, as you all know, especially India, a place where caste plays a major role. So each and every snack has a caste connotation as well. So Punathil speaks about the caste connotation of the snacks that we had. So Punathil was speaking about these history of the culinary patterns in his very famous book, Gifted Hands Aga Certain Kitchen Matters. So when you look at the social aspect, it is more related to a community. It is more related to the community diet as well. Again, when you look at this idea of healing, it is not something that happened to a person, but that particular person connects with the society because of through the taste memories. Again, there is another very famous critic, Pierre Nora. He has also mentioned about this aspect of memory and taste in using two concepts. One is the space of memory, another one is the geography of memory. Again, that is also connected to space. So these memories are memories about food are connecting the individuals to a particular place or to a particular geographical locale. And in all these instances, food is a key mediator. It could be considered as a symbol of identity, and again, it is a marker of differences. This is where we have to look at the idea of religion or caste, because we have strict distinctions between what is supposed to be eaten by who. Again, it is a marker of epochal transformation. This is again very familiar, because when you look at certain types of food, we may use certain terms like fast food or something. For example, parota. Parota is something very common now, but it was not like that some 30 years back. It was not very common. In our, restaurants and hotels, we never had this much of popularity for that, food item. So when you look at many of the community diets, again it signifies, the food pattern signifies certain transformations. So food is often represented as a bonding factor. It works as an image to understand contested identities. For example, the identity of a person who belongs to a particular community. For instance, in certain fictions, in certain novels, we could see how the people who are doing menial jobs or servants, how they strongly wish to have the taste of the feast that the master of the house is serving. They never get a chance to taste. Even if they are getting, that will be the leftovers of the feast. They won't be served that exotic feast in that status. Even if they are served, it is from a deteriorated state. So that means that itself is a kind of that memory of that taste of food or morsel from the master's house is an instance of a trauma. So these kinds of traumas could accumulate, and whenever you remember that, you cannot remember or you cannot recreate those memories without tears or without crying. So these are instances where, as readers, we could see that these are instances where the characters should be or could be healed. Again, when you look at the food choices, the selection of food, then the discussion of food, the food preparation that we could find in novels or in short stories, they connect the individuals with the place, with the geography, and with the society. So when we move to the institutions of marriage and family, again we could relate that. There are a lot of stories. I'll give you certain examples based on food representations and what exactly is the role played by food representations in institutions like family and marriage. So, it is not just the presence of food that heals us, it is also the absence of food. If food is absent, we can say that is an example for hunger. So, there is this famous writer, German writer, Hertha Müller, and her very famous novel, The Hunger Angel, is an apt example where food memories of a community is discussed. In this novel, somebody from, an young boy from Romania is deported to a Russian camp. There he is forced to work for some time. And there, as you know, in concentration camps, just like jail, during the Cold War period, the food that is given to you is depending upon the work that you are doing. So, based on that, your work will be assessed. Based on that, a particular gram of food will be distributed. So, our protagonist, he had this habit of preserving food. He will keep the food for the next meal. When he gets a piece of bread, he will just take a munch of it and then he will preserve it. Or he won't take it, he will preserve it. So when the next meal time will come, he will again get another piece of bread, he will again preserve it. He had this continuous remembrances of past, of future that is coming. So he always thinks about the future. And in the novel, we can say that hunger is depicted as not an enemy, it is depicted as an angel. And that is why the novel is titled as Hunger Angel. And we could find so many scenes where the husband is waiting for the wife to die so that he will also get the share of his wife. We could find so many instances where people who are staying in the same room, they are waiting for the death of the other person so that they could, our protagonist himself is waiting for the another person who is literally very weak, and he waits for that person's death so that he will get that soup. So the way in which hunger is depicted, hunger of not of an individual but of the entire community, entire people who are there in that camp. So the deportation is over. Our protagonist came back to his home. See, at one particular point of view, this is very similar to the novel which very soon you will see as the movie The Goat Days, based on Benjamin's very famous novel. There also somebody who is forced to move to Middle East country, somebody who is forced to spend his life amongst the gods, and how he is surviving. After all those hardships, when he comes back, how he looks at his own food, his own homemade food. That is depicted in this particular passage. You could read, I'll read it like this. I had forgotten how to eat with a knife and fork. My hands twitched, and so did my throat when I swallowed. I knew how to go hungry because so far he was in the camp. So I managed to manage hunger, how to make food last, and how to wolf it down when you finally have some. But I no longer knew how to eat politely, because eating politely is a lavishness. table manners is a luxury. See, when you are bothered about table manners, you have a fork, you have a spoon, you have a decent plate, you have something, to keep on to that plate. You have enough time to spend on a table, right? Then only we'll think about table manners. Otherwise, we will gulp something, we will take a glass of water and we will go for the next work. So we are living in a time when table manners is a luxury, the same thing. But I no longer knew how to eat politely, or how long to chew and when to swallow. These are all acts of luxury. When you are in a home, the so-called institutionalized home, which is a safer, secure place, we have time to learn all those things. But as a guy who just came from the camp, I don't know any of these things. So my father sat across from me, and our tabletop seemed as big as half the world. He squinted as he watched me and hid his pity. My grandmother understood better than anyone how to be kind to me without making a fuss. So this guy, all others, he is also part of the family. He is a son. He is also part of the family. But now he is a stranger, because so far he was away from the family members. So when all others are looking in a very strange manner, especially the father being the symbol of the patriarch, he is so curious to know, oh my God, how my son is taking his food. My grandmother, he says that my grandmother understood better than anyone how to be kind to me without making a fuss, without expressing, without showing that I want to be kind. In a very subtle manner, she expresses that kindness. She made soup that was extra thick. Probably so, I wouldn't have to agonize over knives and forks. When you are in a concentration camp, you don't have that luxury to use a fork and a spoon and a knife to take your food. You will be swallowing, you will be gulping, you would be eating like an animal, you would be a savage, you won't be a very civilized guy. But when you are in a home, you should exhibit all those politeness. But now I can't. And so I'm more like a criminal before my father's eyes. I don't know how many of you have faced these issues related to table manners. Don't make sound when you chew. We could, as readers, we could relate all these things. So if you think about that, they are all minor issues of, minor kinds of trauma. So we can say that at this instance, when the grandmother is so kind to him, when the grandmother is preparing soup which is extra thick so that he can just use a spoon and scoop it, that is an act of healing. Can't we consider it as an act of healing? These are our instances where somebody is assuring you that, don't worry, I am here for you. So through the food narratives, we could read such acts of healing. Is it clear? Okay. So again, when you look at the food representation from Indian perspective, there is this very famous critic on cultural studies, Arjun Appadurai. Appadurai, has looked at a lot of aspects related to food and culture, especially his works on cookbooks in India. Is it possible to have one cookbook on Indian cuisines? No. He discussed, that aspect of on constructing a national cuisine, which is not at all possible. Okay. So he comes at, I'm not discussing the entire essay, but there is one interesting point that is quite pertinent to our discussion on food and caste. That is, he says that in India, we have carefully controlled inter-ethnic dining. We we are people belonging to different religious or caste dispositions. We have our own convictions. Certain people belonging to certain religion, certain other people belonging to certain caste or creed. So depending upon that, sometimes it is reflected in their food practices as well. So, us as a society where dining across caste or ethnic boundaries is still a delicate matter. That is what Arjuna Padure says. Caste plays a very pertinent role. Whatever we are saying, we say that we are a very modernist kind of society, ours is a very secular place, still we could find. The best example is given by Santosh Echikanam, one of the very famous contemporary writer from Kerala. So his, an interesting short story, Pandi Bhojanam, which could be translated as community feast. Pandi Bhojanam is an act of social reform that happened in Kerala. So many social reformers were there to as an activism against, untouchability. They started this social reform movement where all these people, they came together to dine together. Okay, this to feast together. I may belong to a particular community, my friend will be from a different community. So all these people are establishing that we could dine together. So caste or religious discriminations are not there. Just to publicly announce that we had this community feast. That is an aspect of history. But Santosh Echikanam, in his short story, which is again titled as Pandi Bhojanam, that means community feast, in that is a story where we could find a group of lawyers. Lawyers, they are the watch guards, they are the guardians of law. So everybody is equal before law. That is what we preach. That is what we don't practice. Okay, we preach that. So in this particular short story, we could say that there are lawyers belonging to different religious disposition. There is a Christian, there is a Brahmin, there is a Nair. Again, the prosecutor is from a Dalit community. So these ladies, so they decided that we have to do something to bring that prosecutor into our camp. We will conduct a feast. So every day, except that prosecutor from the Dalit community, every other people, the Christian, the Nair, the Brahmin, again there is a Muslim as well, I think. So all these people, they dine, they have their, quite often they have their lunch together. So somebody will be, bringing a preparation of pork. Someone else will bring mango curry. Someone else will be bringing fish curry. So all of these people, just like what we do, when we share our lunch. So that is a regular practice for them. So in that story, they decided that they have to win that particular case, even if justice is not with them. They thought, first we will take that prosecutor into our side. Then we can easily win the case. That is the story. So to pacify or to appeal that prosecutor, they are sharing the fish preparation, prepared by that lady. So just after that lunch, we can see that the Brahmin lady, she rushes into the washroom to vomit. She is eating in a very happy manner. That conviviality is there. She, explained about the food preparation. In a very happy mood, she partakes in that lunch. But just after that lunch, she rushes into the washroom, she vomits. And that is the beauty of the Pandi Bhojanam that we have in the contemporary scenario. This is the superficial kind of camaraderie that we use to announce. Again, for a reader, we could see that this is something that should be healed. You may be wondering, how can we say that it is a healing? No, this is a trauma. This is an instance of a communal sort of trauma. But it should be healed. Again, this is one example for a community or a community feast. There is again this act of feasting which could, which could be used as an agency to heal. One of the recent stories which is titled as Istanbul. In that story by S. Harish, I don't know how many of you have read this very famous novel, Moustache. There is Misha. Misha is known as the Moustache. Okay. So there is this very famous Malayalam novel which is again translated into English, I think by Jayashree Kalathil. I think so, I'm not very sure. The translation is there, English translation. The same author has written almost 3-4 months back this very famous short story which is titled as Istanbul. In that story, we could find two rival families. So one evening, the patriarch from one of the families, he takes a decision. He moves to the other family and he announces that I'm staying here for 2 days. So the other people, they were wondering, what is that? Because they are, they are rivals. They are extremely rich. They have their own family rivalry. But still this old man, he comes to dine with them. And then he stayed there for 2 days in his enemy's house. And then when he leaves, the cook in that particular house, he prepares something. It is a particular type of pastry. And that pastry is known as baklava. Baklava is a Turkish pastry. Now it is available in almost all the bakeries here in our place as well. If you go to a supermarket or a bakery, you could find this baklava. It's a miniature form of our puff pastry. Okay, we could buy it in packets. It's a Turkish sweet. See, Turkish sweet is used as an agency to heal the rivalry between two families again. Okay, and again, I'm taking an anticipatory bail. None of the authors, though I use the term heal, none of the authors are using the term heal. As a reader, we could read that this is an example for the culinary kind of a healing, or the spiritual healing or the mental healing that happens where food is an agency. Again, another example is this is how you cook beef. This is a beautiful poem. It is there in the internet. There is this very famous magazine by Sahitya Academy, I think, Guftugu. This poem written by Anand Haridas. It speaks about it. I think it is in 4 or 5 stanzas. So on one side we could find what are the steps you have to take care of when you cook beef. On the other side, it speaks about the story of those migrant laborers who were murdered during the COVID period, during that train accident. So the status of human beings is worse than that of a beef. That is what is depicted in the poem. Okay. Again, it is not about an individual, but it is about the group of people who are forced to leave their land for their livelihood to live in some other place. It is about the migrant laborers. Next example is from a personal perspective, term that we have to keep in mind, that is culinary nostalgia. Nostalgia is, all of us could relate with nostalgia. When we were children, what we had. Now, again, you are children, I am no more a child, but I still love to have something that my grandmother used to make when I was a child. So there is this very famous author, Anita Mannur, ANITAMANNUR, Anita Mannur, who wrote an entire paper on culinary nostalgia. Again, it is about the diaspora people. Here, there is this very famous writer, B. Murali. This is one simple example. In that story, we could find a couple who are settled in the US. So the husband, both the husband and wife, they think about their childhood days. And even if when the wife says that I'm thinking about my home, my village and all, husband says that there is nothing like nostalgia. You know, we have to adapt. We have to adjust with our situation now. Again, they are extremely rich. But one fine morning, husband gets an instant urge to have some sort of a food prepared by his mother. You might have heard about banana blossom, banana flower. We term it as vadakumbu. Okay. So there is a preparation. So he teaches his wife how to prepare that. So it is actually the recreation of the past that happens, whereas his wife is not at all able to prepare that. And that is actually leading to the breakup. Okay, so there is this very famous quote by Nadia Serimetakis. She says that nothing tastes as good as the past. Sometimes we have to think like that, right? When we think about our own past, our own childhood days, nothing tastes as good as the past. In many of the instances where Culinary is an agency to heal, the past operates, or the memories of the past operates. The same thing we could find in this short story by Madeleine Thane. Madeleine Thane is again a Canadian writer. The simple recipes, in that simple recipes, we could find people who have migrated from Malaysia to Canada. The first generation people, they are not able to adjust with the situation, whereas their children, they are able to adjust. So if I am the parent, I may be longing to go back, because I have the memories of my childhood, I have the memories of my good old days. So in this story also, the mother is the working member in that family, whereas the father, he prepares everything, he cooks. When you look at the narrator, she is always with her father to learn what are the things you have to take care of when you wash rice to prepare. How will you kill a fish? How will you catch a fish and kill a fish to prepare? Again, how will you scoop rice? All these things she learns patiently from her father. Whereas the son, again, he finds it very difficult to carry the past along with him, because he is very happy with the new place. He is very happy to understand, to learn, to adapt to the culture of the new place, whereas his father is imposing the culture of the past. So I'll give you an example from the short story in the third session. But there are examples of trauma that happens. There are examples of domestic violence that happens. Again, Culinary is an agency, because when you don't like to have one particular sort of food, when your parents are asking you to have it, it's a trauma for us, right? When you look at father, he has a purpose. When you look at the son, he also has a purpose. So they are instances where they need certain time to heal. Whereas the narrator, she could understand that. And she is making use of the Culinary as a space to investigate where exactly we need this process of healing. Again, these are all fruit salad, faluda. They are all examples of, they're the titles of some of the short stories where you could find, they are, right from the title, the entire story is about how food representations could be empowering agencies. Another example is broccoli. I'll give you that example later. Again, another famous critic is Holtzman, who looked at the sensuality of eating that transmits powerful mnemonic cues, principally through smells and taste. When you think about the food preparations that your parents or your grandparents have made at one point of time, if you are taking some time and when you think about that, you could recreate the smell, you could recreate the taste. We will do that exercise during the third session. Please be patient. But I'm just telling you that. So, but just keep in mind, just like the food spaces and the food interaction, kitchen is a very important repository for memory. And next slide. This is again another example where I'll quickly wind up. This is an example where again chocolate. You might have read this short story by Manju Kapoor. Anybody? No. So please read that short story. The title is Chocolate. Just like the character in the Ladies' Coupe, here also we could find a husband who was showering different varieties of chocolate, especially mint chocolate. All those mint chocolates that you could buy from airports and all. He gives all those things to his wife. And after and again, this man who is so curious about his physique and all, so much concerned about his well-built body, there is a purpose behind that. And when you look at that wife, he is using that very same agency to retaliate. So, Next one is again another example for another healing process that happens. This is written by Lara Wapner. Lara Wapner's short story collection, which is titled as A Bunch of Broccoli on the Third Shelf. This is one story, A Bunch of Broccoli. We could see that how a man used his wife as an agency to migrate to the US. They are basically Russian people. They came to US, and this wife, she is not happy in the US. She always carries that memories in this new place. So she is addicted to purchase or to shop vegetables. She buys all sorts of cookbooks with glossy images and all. This is a short story where you could find food porn, the representation of food. Just like watching a porn movie, you could go through the food representations. It will, gives you, erotic sensations. She who no longer finds any kind of purpose in her life in this new or in this displaced place is happy with the cookbooks that she purchases when she is in the US. And when we begin the story, this is how it starts. Another one, seduced and abandoned. See that term itself, using that terms, it is not mentioning, she's not mentioning a human being. Though when you look at the term seduced and abandoned, that is the status of Nina, the character. Okay, so she identifies herself with the vegetable broccoli. Nina's husband said, pulling a bunch of wilted broccoli from the refrigerator shelf. He held it with 2 fingers as if it stank, his handsome face scrunched in a grimace of disgust. This is how we begin the story. When the story progresses, we could see that the husband is leaving Nina. Towards the end, one of his friends, husband's friends, he visits her for a cooking date. So we could see that she purchases everything. There are, she buys some cooking utensils, new knives and all. But she forgets to buy vegetable. Then only she realizes that there is nothing to cook. And later, she is hunting something inside the fridge and she noticed a bunch of broccoli on the third shelf. Okay, and that is the last para. A bunch of broccoli was stuck between the third shelf and the refrigerator wall. It hung upside down. When you read this description of the broccoli, relate that with Nina. That is the Nina's personality in the story. The florets nearly touching the shelf below. The bunch wasn't yellowed or covered with rotten slime. On the contrary, for the weeks that it lay between the shelves, it had become darker and drier. So this darkness, this dryness, that is something that happened to the personality of Nina, who is abandoned right now. Who needs a camaraderie, who needs a companionship. That itself is a process that needs healing. So when this new guy, Andre, when he comes there, he prepares a soup using this broccoli, and then he invites Nina to climb up the stove and you inhale the smell of the broccoli. So as a reader, we could say that smelling process is like a healing. It heals the pain, the agony, the disappointment, the frustration that she faced in her relationship. Okay. So this is what happened in this particular story. You just look at the last point. Here, food transforms his personality from that of a social commodity to that of a personal expression. And later, Nina is the broccoli. And if, as reader, if you could, if you are able to sublimate the character's, perspective to that, then we can say that healing process is there. So, as reader, we are reading this healing to the characters. Okay, so next. Healing again could be considered as a routine. So this is where we could read Holtzman and Levi-Strauss. As Sir has mentioned, cooking is a language. It is a truly universal form of human activity. If there is no society without a language, there isn't any society without a language, right? So all of us are, as far as we exist as a society, as far as we have a language, whenever we cook, we engage with a language. So cooking has this uncanny ability to tie the minutiae of everyday experience to broader cultural patterns. So we may be cooking, we may be preparing tea. And just think about how we begin a day. We are just preparing a tea. Tomorrow onwards, when you prepare a tea, if we do that with a mindfulness, when we measure or when we take water, when we keep that over the stove, when we add a bit of ilachi or when we add 1 spoon of tea powder or tea dust, if you do all those things with a bit of mindfulness, you could relate that. It is again, you just think about the number of teas that you have prepared so far. As students or as sons and daughters, you try to count the number of doshas or idlis that you have consumed. When we teach gender, we used to ask our students, like, do you consider the work that your mama is doing at home as a work? No, ma'am, it's a function, it's a duty, it is a role. If she is a mother, she has to do that. If we are paying, she'll become a maid. My mama is not a maid, my mama is my own mama. She prepares, it's an act of love. But see, acts of love should be reciprocated. How do we reciprocate? Oh, is this idli? This is very hard. Who will eat it? It's more like a bomb. It's not an idli. This is dosha. Again, this is very rough. So these are bitter words that hurt your mother or your sister or whoever cooks it for you. Maybe from their part, it's an act of love. Try to reciprocate that. Try to reciprocate that love. Then that reciprocation itself becomes an act of healing. Because your mothers need to heal. So today when you go back, sit with your mother, take her hands, touch her, and do express your acknowledgement. Because cooking is mnemonic, it carries memories, it is an affect, it carries emotions, it should be reciprocated. So I'll wind up with 2 more slides. Food is personal and political. The bond that is established through cuisines, through culinary objects and culinary spaces are agencies which interact with you. I don't know whether you have noticed, certain people are very comfortable when they are in their own kitchen. Certain people are very comfortable when they are using their own utensils. If you have listened to your mother, they will say that, no, I'm not very comfortable using this particular spatula. When you are buying something new, they will say that this is not as comfortable as what we used to use. So, Holtzman says that food offers a potential window into forms or memory that are more heteroglossic. Okay, it just like what Barthas was saying, it is a polysemia. We could read multiple meanings. It is heteroglossic, it is polysemia. Again, it is ambivalent. Sometimes we cannot easily decipher the meaning. Though we have essays on deciphering a meal, sometimes it is very difficult to explain the entire equation behind a meal. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes it is layered. Sometimes it is very textured. We could find layers of meanings. We could find different shades of meanings. And it is actually Roland Barthes who mentioned about this thing in his essay towards the psychosociology of contemporary food consumption. And again, as Sir has mentioned, Lévi-Strauss in his treatise, The Culinary. Again, whenever you take, this is an article, this is a point which we could relate with both with the individual kind of connection and the social. Every day when you partake in a meal, you are partaking in a historical act, because this is a meal which is yours through a process. So, eating should be considered as a healing process. It is a sign. It is a sign system. So when you look at this act of healing, there are a lot of, when I as a reader or when I as a scholar speaks about this idea of healing, it is purely from a literature perspective. But do understand, psychological studies are also there. This is an important point highlighted by two of the prominent writers, Elisabeth von Essen and Frederica Martensen, from a psychological perspective. They were looking at the young adults' use of emotional food memories to build resilience. Resilience is, again, when you look at healing, we have to say that before, what exactly needs healing is a trauma or a pain or a hurt that happened. During the healing, what happens is resilience. You are, you got some sort of a hurt, you got some sort of a pain, you got some sort of an agony. And right now, when you are healed, you are again regaining some sort of an elevated status to embrace that particular moment, not with a painful thought, but with a renewed sense of resilience. That is what exactly is happening. So I'll wind up with the last slide. This is from the novel Recipe for a Perfect Wife. Again, it's not about the so-called perfectionism or something like that. Somebody who moves to a new house, a lady who is resigning her job. She says that I don't want to pursue this job. I want to become a writer. And she, she takes a new house, not a new house, a house. And there she comes across, a cookbook. And she finds certain notes in that cookbook. So going through that notes, she is actually making a kind of a historical kind of exploration about the residents who resided there before her arrival. And that itself is some sort of a healing. This particular lady, that person who, the protagonist or the narrator who is taking that house through the cookbook, through the notes given by a mother to her daughter, is actually gaining some sort of an empowerment. That empowerment is a process of healing. She reads, this is one example. There are frequent cooking sessions in those days. There, in the sense, a mother and a daughter. In those days, weren't only an education in home economics. They were also a housewifery training program passed from mother to daughter. Elsie taught Nellie how to make her own bread yeast and why one should add a dash of oatmeal to soup. This is something we could again relate. If you are with your mama, sometimes mothers will, train these tips. If you are preparing vegetable korma, if it is too watery, you just add a spoonful of corn flour. Okay, so you can enrich the consistency, just like that. And how vinegar keeps boiling cauliflower pristinely white. And underpinning those lessons was Elsie's wish for Nellie to marry a good man. So that is the message given by Elsie to her daughter Nellie. Okay, how to marry a good man, how to be a perfect wife. But whereas when our protagonist is reading this novel, it is not to marry a good man, but to empower her own self. That empowerment is an act of healing. But Elsie's love, this is the beautiful moment in that novel. Elsie's love for Nellie was as bountiful as her gardens. So that lady, she has a perfectly groomed garden where you could find all sort of herbs, all sort of leafy vegetables that she used for the kitchen. You have been my greatest joy, Elsie would murmur Nellie when she tucked her into bed, kissing her on the forehead, on her cheeks, her eyelids. And this mother, she was smelling of roses and dusty baking flour, my greatest joy. So this is how the mother used to shower her love to her daughter. But this is the same way, in a different direction, our protagonist was empowered. So every act of food preparation, every act of food description could be an act of healing from a reader's perspective. So thank you for your patience. If you have any queries, you can ask. I will try to answer.
Hello, happy to see you all. I'll be talking on food films, and more specifically my topic is, are food films just a visual feast? A historical inquiry into their evolution from a narrative form to a political force. So it was scheduled before the lunch. I thought of giving you an apology because food will be making you more hungry, food on screen. But happily, you are full right now, I think so. In Japanese, we say that Anakaga ippaidas. I am full. Anyway, I am full and happy to take the presentation. So, already she has given a detailed introduction about me. This is my research area. Just go back to the previous slide. Can anyone guess which movie this particular frame is taken from? Any idea? Any Studio Ghibli fans here? Anybody from the back? Hayao Miyazaki fans? I can hear some sounds from there, I don't know, but Studio Ghibli is a Japanese animation company that is famous for its portrayal of food in its frames, from very simple meals to elaborate feasts, and Hayao Miyazaki is the one who received his second Oscar for his best animation picture in the last week for his movie The Boy and the Heron, and this is the film released in 2001 which won him his first Oscar. And this is in some way, it can be a food film. It was entirely on the Japanese philosophy of mindful eating. Eating very slowly, enjoying the food so that we can avoid overeating. So that particular movie came as, it stresses on the idea of acting against bulimia or gluttony. At a time when Japan is introduced to many food items as part of globalization. I will just show you a short clip of this film, Spirited Away, so that you will get to know about, you will get an idea regarding how animated food looks like. Just play the video, it's there, Spirited Away. Not this video, not this video. So this will be the highlights of my discussion. So where we will try to define food films and trace the birth and development of food films, and also we will look into food and cinematography, how to read food films, and also food films beyond the feasting of our eyes. Maybe food as a political force rather from being just as a narrative source. Okay? So this is a very simple definition of food film, where it refers to a specific group of movies in which food and eating are not only present on screen, but they become a key element in plot progression, character development, and help in the general unfolding of the film narrative. Also, through food, we will get to know more about the characters. It will help externalize the emotions of the character. We will get to know about the world that is being portrayed in the film, the nation in which this particular movie is set. Next slide. So this is more of a technical definition by Anne L. Bower, who edited the book Real Food, R-E-E-L, Real Food, Essays on Food and Film. So in this particular, Yeah, sorry. She focused on the technical aspects like the camera, the setting, and also food in film reflects a set of identities. So, basing on this particular definition, let us go on to define the characteristic features of a food film. First thing is that it plays a leading role. The camera will be focusing on the presentation or preparation of food, and food will be a constant appearance on screen through various camera techniques like close-ups as well as panning shots. And the second one is food-related spaces. The key location will be a restaurant or a home kitchen, or it can be a dining room or a shop where food is being cooked or sold. So these will be the main place where the story takes place. And thirdly, as I told, it will be defining the characters. As I already said, by analyzing, by giving a close reading of the relation that characters share with food, we will get to know about the characters, their emotions, and helps in the character development in the film. And we can say that food in film, or food generally, it can reflect two different levels of identities. As Gigi ma'am was saying, one at a very personal level, at a very individual level, where it talks us in film, it talks us about the characters and helping in the character development. And on the other side, it is about the wider perspective, the societal aspects, where food will be reflecting a whole lot of identities about the political, historical, cultural, economic background or gender identities of the nation in which that particular film is set. So with that, let us move on to the birth and development of food films. So according to Steve Zimmerman, he has told us that in the 1980s, a remarkable thing happened. A new star was born with a unique style of its own. So that is a new genre called food films. Like with the frequent use of close-ups, color photography of sumptuous meals, and also it has a significant role in enriching the audience sensory experience. You know that David Sutton, she has already introduced him to you. He has talked about food and foodways as something of a very multi-sensory experience. In his own term, a synesthetic experience in a way that evokes all the senses. Suppose you are in a kitchen. Just imagine that you are in a kitchen. Okay? Just listen to the voices of the conversations that is being exchanged in the kitchen. The voice of the vegetables being chopped, the sound of the whistles from the cooker, the smell of the food that is being cooked, the vision of the vibrant food being cooked, the presentation, and the texture of the dough in your hands, and the feeling, the taste of a whole dish in your mouth. So it is a multisensory experience, and that is one of the main reasons why food films has become that popular. So we need to understand the question, why food remained unnoticed or silent or secondary to the plot before the 1980s. He says that in the 1980s there was a proliferation of food films. So what happened before that? That is a question, but we need to understand that food in film was not at all a novel concept. It was always there in the frames because food is something very basic to us, right? So films have to definitely reflect that in their frames. So it remains silent mainly because of many practical and technical difficulties. With no sound in the silent era, with no colors in the black and white era, and also so I was talking about maybe because of this technology, lack of technology by that time. At that time, there was no interest from side of the filmmakers or no interest from the movie goers too. See, cooking without color and sound, it is very slow paced. It is very uninteresting process of watching cooking scenes and people consuming food. And also, mostly it was outdoor shooting. So because of that, there was this imperfect lighting conditions as well as unpredictable weather conditions. Maybe gusty winds can mess the food arranged on table. And as I said, black and white film stock was a limitation. And again, because of the technological limitations, the cost and inconvenience of arranging and replacing the food before the characters for each takes, that was also very difficult. And we had this Charlie Chaplin films, but many say that even though he showed food, like we have that shoe cooking scene in Gold Rush, we have that the mechanized eating process in Modern Times, we have the pancake scene in The Kid, but the focus was on the humor or as a social issue rather than the focus on food. He portrayed the social issues of the marginalized communities from Europe as well as America, but it was on humor and social issues, not on food as such. I'll show you, I should say that one of the first films of Lumia brothers was on feeding the baby, a 1-minute film. So it will give you an idea how uninteresting the feeding scene is without any color, without sound. I'll show you. It actually came in 1895, okay? Enough. Can we compare this with today's food films? No way, right? So, next slide. So, we also need to consider this particular question: why a sudden proliferation of food films after the 1980s? So, evidently it's because of the improved film stock and lenses, stylized lighting, and the availability of color film. And also in the 1960s, there was this introduction of strobe lights replacing tungsten lights. Tungsten lights, it's too hot, it can melt the food. So with the strobe lights, the important thing is that it could capture very sharp images. Sharp images in its vibrancy is very much important to food cinematography. So that is another reason, and there was a growing interest in food as a subject. Thanks to Julia Child in 1950s and 60s, we can connect to imperfect people well, right? Rather than connecting ourselves to a perfect person. So Julia Child was someone who used to, in her French cooking TV shows, she used to drop an appliance. Maybe she used to burn one or two dishes. So there was like a fans association for her, many home cooking happening and many chefs coming up, professional chefs. That also, I would like to say that she was a major reason for the emergence of that growing interest in food as a subject, as well as in the emergence of, in some way, the emergence of food films. And other reason was that this emergence of a food-loving movie market was happening by that time. And the other reasons why there was a sudden proliferation is that with all these technological advancements, food, of course, it will look good on screen. And it's very interesting to watch someone cooking in all its vibrancy, sounds, with all that sensory experience. And the second thing is that food is something, again, very emotional for us, very basic to us, so it can be easily woven into the act of storytelling. By giving a key location like kitchen or dining spaces, they are great sources for narration. It's where people come together, they talk, So many of the conflicts are being created there, and also many of the conflicts are resolved, thereby helping in the gradual unfolding of the film narrative. And also these, as I already said, they require only very key locations like a restaurant or a home kitchen. In that way, it is inexpensive also, the production, everything. So these are the various reasons. Now let us quickly go through food and cinematography. So what food requires on screen is proper lighting to highlight the texture and colors without harsh shadows. Then food should be on close-up shots to let us know about the detailing, the steam, the texture, everything. And there should be a certain level of saturation to enhance the vibrancy and the visual appeal. And the camera movement should be in a way so as to create excitements, maybe to evoke hunger, etc. And the sound movement, the sound techniques is also very important in taking into frames that sizzling or crunching sounds and to enhance the sensory experience of the audience. And another thing is that props and set designs, it should be arranged in a way so as to complement the food that is being portrayed in the film. Okay? And also we can make use of focus and depth of field so that certain element of food can be focused on so as to communicate various ideas. And we need a thorough editing at the end so as to create anticipation, to enhance the visual appeal, or to enhance the sensory experience of the audience. Let us watch the opening scene of the popular movie, food film Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, which was released in the 1980s. Keep in mind the points I have talked about food and cinematography so that you will get to know more about it.
亲爱的上帝，求你祝福我的爸爸和两个妹妹，使我们全家人都能认识你。现在我要感谢你赐我们这丰盛的晚餐，再一次的谢谢你，让我们一家和乐团聚在一起。祷告感谢，奉主耶稣的名，阿门。
He was actually preparing the Sunday dinner, the usual Sunday dinner for his 3 daughters. Now let us move to how to read food films. So, these are some random ideas about the possibilities of food in film. We know that it is about culinary aesthetics, right? It's about the culinary technique and skills on screen. And as we said, food has a narrative function in film, helping in the plot progression, character development, and in the unfolding of the film narrative. And it can tell us about the temporal and spatial dimensions. For example, taking the Japanese example, they stresses on the idea of seasonal ingredients, using seasonal ingredients. By reading which ingredient is being used or it's being displayed, we will get to know whether it is summer or winter, and also what kind of dish is being cooked. Certain ingredients are available only in certain regions. So by reading that, we will get to know about the space that is being displayed. And as I said, a whole lot of identities are reflected through food. As I said, the political, the historical, the cultural, the gender identities. And it's also about the celebration of, sometimes about the celebration of rituals and ceremonies. And it can be about memory and nostalgia too. Food memories have the power to drive the plot. Food memories are really powerful, and it is a major theme in many of the food films also. And food is about, as we say, it's about emotion, and it will be so emotional, and it's about the sensory experience. As I said, everything related to it's a multi-sensory experience. And not only food films, some of the documentaries on food, it can tell us about various ethical and environmental considerations. And more than everything, food on films can be about marketing and branding. Marketing not only the products, the food culture, but also various ideologies. So that is where food politics comes into being, which we'll be talking at towards the end of the session. Food also has the subversive power within it. By portraying certain dishes or certain culture on screen, it will be also subverting various dominant ideologies and propagating the food culture and various ideologies that of the nation in which that particular film is set. Now let us move to the first film that we are going to discuss, Tambombo, which was released in 1985 by Juzo Itami. Sorry that this is not my bias for Japanese films, but this is globally accepted as the first food film in its strict sense. So this particular film, it's about a woman who owns a ramen shop. So one day a truck driver and his sidekick, while passing, they decides to dine at her restaurant. But they passes a comment that your ramen is not that good. So she asks this person to make her his disciple. So he agrees to that, and the entire film is about the struggles that they go through to make her to a perfect ramen chef. Okay, to help her cook a perfect bowl of ramen. So Juzo Itami actually gives the women the role of protagonist as a chef, mainly to maybe subvert the idea of that extreme patriarchal notions of Japanese people. So that's also some kind of politics working there. We cannot say politics, maybe a subversion. So let's move on to the next slide. So these are, so I missed something. This is the main plot line that I mentioned, but there are a whole lot of subplots in this particular film, really unconnected kind of subplots. But the common thread connecting all these subplots together to the main plot is that obsession with food. By studying each scene, having a close reading of each frames, we will get to know about the different dimensions of food studies as well as the different possibilities of food films. So these are some of the possibilities of food in film. So it focuses on food as nourishment, as always. And moving on to food and class, I'll say that it's all about the celebration of ramen across its frames, celebration of the art of cooking ramen and art of consuming ramen. So by taking ramen to a high status, ramen is actually preferred by the working class of Japanese people. So by taking ramen to that extent, it's a subversion of class. Or by portraying a scene where a group of gourmets is from very ordinary people, that is a subversion of class. Again, there is a scene of a junior businessman outshowing his knowledge of French cuisines before his senior businessmen. So that is again a subversion of class. Now moving on to food and gender, as I said, about his protagonist, there is another scene where a dying woman, she is getting up from her deathbed and preparing a final meal for her family. So that particular scene is taken to very extreme condition or to its extremity so as to subvert the gender notions of Japanese people. And there is food and sex. The possibilities of food and sex explored in this particular film. Maybe on one side to explore the sensual pleasures that food can give. As ma'am said, the erotic possibilities of food on screen. On the other side, it can be, if it is taken to an extreme level, it can be a subversion of the objectifying of women. Then again, food reflects different levels of identities. As I it will definitely reflect the food culture of Japan. And there is one scene where women is of the habit of going to supermarkets and just pressing the fruits and other delicacies. On a very plain level, it is highlighting the sensual pleasure, the sensory experience of feeling the food. But on the other side, it can be a social issue of the growing population of old age. It's a very pressing issue there. The growing population of old age people in Japan. Then food and affect is yet another concept where we have a scene where a dying gangster, he is dying, but he is talking about the recipe for pork sausages. So that affective is, that powerful is food memory. Again, I am quoting her. The food memories can be both comforting and on the other side it can be traumatic too. And the kitchen space as such can be very effective because of we call it as inalienable possessions. Because of the objects we are in, unknowingly maybe we will be in a constant affective interaction with the kitchen objects. It has a healing, we will get a healing power when we just simply sit in the kitchen. Some people, ma'am said, using certain utensils, they will be happy. There is some effect into it. And final thing is that there is also some sort of power politics that will go along with food movies. Food politics we will talk towards the last, but still this particular film is highlighting ramen, right? So there is taking ramen to an international attention. There is some kind of politics of popularizing dishes that is happening behind. Now let us move on to Babette's Feast. Babette's Feast, the story Gigi ma'am has already told us. So Babette's Feast was actually exploring as a film about the transformative power of food. Here we have a group of Protestant people who lead a very kind of an ascetic life, who are devoid of the pleasures of life, who are not even interested in taking the pleasures of food. So after consuming Babe's dinner, they are transforming. There was a lot of conflicts among them. Now after that dinner, they are all happy. They have, there is some kind of reconnection that was happening. Now this particular film, we have already seen the opening scene. He was actually preparing his Sunday dinner for his 3 daughters. This film is actually about the importance of dining spaces. As I said, it was exploring the potential of dining spaces and kitchen spaces in connecting or in building bonds. Like in this particular movie, the dining space is the place where these people make announcement. A daughter will be saying that, Papa, that I am moving out. Papa, that I am going to marry him. So many of the conversation is happening in this dining space. So how kitchen or dining space as a space, it can contribute to the unfolding of the film narrative that is being explored. Now, I talked to you about Julia Child. So I just included this because this film that was released in 2009 was actually a homage to Julia Child's wit, humor, warmth, everything, by portraying another lady, Julie. Like there is a different kind of narration where Julie is trying out, experimenting the recipes of Julia Child. I think it's 500 and something in an year. So that is the entire movie about recipe into films. Now this particular movie, Chef, is all about the journey of self-discovery, where this particular chef was working under another chef where he can't experiment anything new. And finally he has come up with his own food truck where he has all rights of his own to come up with innovative dishes. And by cooking that dishes along with his wife and son, with his wife with whom he had an estranged relation. But after the coming of food truck and cooking with them, it's again some sort of reconciliation working there. Now Ratatouille, you will all be familiar, I guess. It's about the power of food memories to drive a plot, right? So how the Ratatouille dish has changed the perspectives of the critic Anton. Now it's the film The 100-Foot Journey. This is also a popular. This is about the politics or the struggles of an Indian being in a foreign land. Their struggles to open up a restaurant in a foreign land in Paris. Now this particular film that is was very popular in Netflix, Hunger. This I selected to talk to you about the politics of class, the economic disparities, the binary between the rich and the poor, where the rich can afford to vary the luxurious food, but whereas the poor people cannot. And we can see her going to different restaurants, being their chef. She comes back to serve as a chef in her own restaurant, the outlet. So, because of the importance of feeding those who are really hungry, right? So now let us move on to Indian food films so that you can connect to that more, right? Rather than foreign films. So Chinikam, it came in 2007. So I'll just give you a thematic analysis because of the time. I think I'll just go on by the different possibilities or how food was taken into this narrative in different ways. So in Chinikam, if you are familiar, this Buddha Dev Gupta was a chef. Is a chef in the film, and mostly it's about food connecting two different individuals, and his own restaurant is the background for their romance, and how their love for food has connected them, and gradually it led to the marriage of the so-called unconventional of a 64-year-old Buddha Dev Gupta and 34 years old Nina Verma. So, the next slide please. So Stanley Kadabba, very emotional narrative. So Stanley is a boy who cannot afford a day's dabba, a lunch box. But it's also about the sharing of food. And on the other hand, it's also about the issues of poverty, child labor, hunger, and importance of education. And the next thing you'll be familiar, salt and pepper in Malayalam and Un Samayalarayil in Tamil. So in Malayalam it is subtitled as Oru Dosha Undakiya Katha. So how a mistaken call for dosha connects two people, two foodies. So it was really interesting to watch the title song of these two films, where this particular movie, Salt and Pepper, was actually shot in Trivandrum, my hometown, Kerala. So where we can see in the title song, the cuisines, the famous shops of Trivandrum, whereas in Tamil Nadu, it's all about the Tamil cuisines, the foodscapes of Tamil Nadu, etc. Yeah. Now, Ustad Hotel, it's a Malayalam movie. Even though it depicts, it's all about food and love or emotions of food, it's about the struggles of small restaurants against 5-star restaurants. So it also highlights the importance of the need for such small restaurants where we can consume food at very minimal cost, so that it can satiate the hunger of those people who are in the margins of the society. The next one is the lunchbox. Again, it will be familiar to you. How again a mistaken dabba, which was supposed to reach to her husband, reaches another guy, and the power of food in nurturing human relationships. This particular film, Kakamottai, the crow's egg, I think I watched it twice. I really love to see these two boys. So this was all about the desire of these two boys to taste pizza after the opening of a restaurant, a pizza outlet in the nearby area. So it's again about the socio-economic disparities, the struggles of those in the margins who cannot afford a 300 rupees pizza. Machar Jol, which is translated as fish curry. In that film, he's a French chef who works in France, and after receiving a call from his hometown that his mother is sick, he comes to visit her after 12 years. So the preparation of this Machar Jol, fish curry, it's a source of going to the past, connecting to his mother, and also about how the traditional recipes can be experimented so as to create very innovative dishes. Then Angamali Diaries is not exactly a food film, but I want to talk to you about the way food can define a region, whereas for Angamali people, food is synonymous to people in Angamali. You can see, not food, I said food, it's pork. You can see pigs there, right? In the poster. So I would also like to say about, mention Lijo Jose Pellisheri, his, the frequent occurrence of food in his frames, like Angamali Diaries, maybe Churuli, Jellikettu, These are some random, Amen, all that films. This is a Marathi film, Gulab Jam. This is about the food memories that this particular character, I think Aditya, has for Gulab Jam. Everything surrounding around the food memories created out of Gulab Jam. But this particular film portrayed Marathi dishes. But the problem was that this particular film was criticized for feeding caste on frame, in the sense that they constantly says that it is authentic Marathi cuisines, and what they show is only the cuisines of upper class people, the Brahminical cuisine, and the setting was Brahminical, and what all the philosophies say, that was Brahminical. Now acts on a dish, akhuni. So that is very popular among northeastern Indians. So this story is about a group of North Indians, northeastern people, trying to cook akhuni for their friend's marriage. But they can't cook it in Delhi because of the smell it produces. But that smell is something that gives a sense of belonging to these people, but not to the Delhi people. So it's a story of the struggles of migration, sense of belonging, etc. So you might have watched this film, I guess, Assamese movie. It's about how food brings in two people together, a young man and a married woman together, because of their interest in tasting new dishes. And that has gone to the extent of tasting human flesh. So it can be in some way about the contradictory binary of desire, pleasure, and taboo. And you'll be knowing this particular film that was pulled from Netflix. So that itself tell you about the politics on screen, politics of food on screen, right? Some Hindutva philosophies or Hindus were hurt because of a character whose father used to cook in a temple, finally coming as a chef who eats meat, who tastes meat. That was very problematic, right? It's for you to watch that film if you haven't, and just understand what really is food politics. So let us wind up the session by talking about food politics. So this particular paragraph says that the use of food in performance is a means of engaging public consciousness. So when we talk about food on screen, I said it is more than a visual feast. It's about acting as a soft power, not a brute force, but a soft power, a hidden power, helping in creating certain identities, as well as sustaining those identities, normalizing the dominant hegemonies, thereby popularizing various traditional recipes. You know, what to say, the effect that food gives us. What is really effect? We say that food is emotional, everything, but affect is also culturally constructed, right? The certain emotions we get out of food is culturally created. So that can be manipulated in us. So I think I have included all the points. So with that, I think I can end the session. If you have any questions, please ask me. Thank you. If you have any doubts after this session, you can just mail me, or if you want to talk about food, you can just have a chat with me in this WhatsApp number. Any questions? Thank you.
Published by an Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology. She is currently conducting a study investigating the culinary manifestation in the 20th century Malayalam literature from the perspective of cultural studies, and a project on cultural mapping of tribal cuisines of Kerala. Ma'am, the stage is yours.
To find out the creative writers among you. Are you ready? How many of you write poems or short stories? Please raise your hand. Are you ready? Just try. You might have come across a lot of poems or short stories where food plays a major role. I'll give you 1 or 2 samples. You please have a look at those lines. I won't be giving you the entire poem, but just first 3-4 lines. Just go through that and just take some time, some 5 to 10 minutes. Think about something related to food. It could be a food item. It could be a food space. It could be an ingredient. It could be any memory. Think about that. Try to write, try to make a poem. Okay? So first, we will, so these are the works that I would like to discuss. The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Murakami. Then The Bastard of Istanbul by Elif Shafak. Simple Recipes is the story that we discussed in the first session by Madeleine Tain. Then the last 2 poems. So we will start with the last 2 poems. So I would like to divide this workshop or this session into 2 modules. The first one we will dedicate to write something creatively. Okay? So I'll give you, you please take a look at the 2 poems. So this is a poem by, have you ever come across this poem? Fix. Who wrote this poem? D.H. Lawrence. Okay. So you know the entire poem, right? The entire poem is not here. Okay. So it is a little bit erotic. It's a little bit sensual. Okay. Depending upon your comfort, you can write. If you want to write the symbolic aspect of a food item, you can. If you want to look at the physical aspect of a food item, you can. We are very familiar with such food representation right from our nursery rhymes, right? Johnny, Johnny, yes papa. Eating sugar, no papa. So right from that, we are very familiar with the food, though we are not recognizing that, right? Then there is also this, again this rhyme, Little Miss Muffet, sat on a tuffet. Haven't you heard about that? Okay, come back to this one. Okay, so this is the poem, Fix. The proper way to eat a fig in society is to split it in 4, holding it by the stump, and open it so that it is a glittering, rosy, moist, honeyed, heavy-petaled, 4-petaled flower. Then you throw away the skin, which is just like a 4-sepaled calyx, after you have taken off the blossom with your lips. But the vulgar way is just to put your mouth to the crack and take out the flesh in 1 bite. Every fruit has its secret. This is just 1 sample. We will have a look at 1 more sample. This is again a poem by a very famous Sri Lankan writer, Michael Ondaatje. Very famous. Okay. The cinnamon peeler. So the cinnamon is the hero here. Or the heroine. Just heroine, that would be fine. Okay. If I were a cinnamon peeler, I would ride your bed and leave the yellow bark dust on your pillow. Your breast and shoulders would reek. You could never walk through the markets without the profession of my fingers floating over you. The blind would stumble, certain of whom they approached, though you might bathe under rain gutters monsoon. So just 2 samples. You think about any sort of food space or food person or food ingredient or recipe or food memory. Think for 5 to 10 minutes. So I am forcing the poet out of you. Please. Now it's 3:10. By, I think it's 3:05. By 3:15, we could identify the most poetic person. Try, please. Consider it as a poetic challenge. And forget about the rhyme scheme or rhyme pattern. What do you feel like, you may please. Teachers can try. Anyone?
Based on the experience that I had while doing my second PG in the American College, Madurai, I didn't know what Pongal was then, except for the celebration. Pongal, it's Pongal today. The girls shouted with glee. I wondered what, I wondered why. With plates and spoons, they ran in. With matchbox and sticks, I ran out. The bell rang, they licked the plates. I understood now what Pongal is. Thank you.
And now I'm hungry as a lion who was starved for many days. The greatest stars have a flesh within them, and the greatest yours is the basmati rice. My eyes encountered the feast just by looking at those rice. My nose experienced the best aroma in this world, and my teeth are waiting to chew those rice. My tongues are lingering around my lips to taste it. My food pipe is waiting to welcome those new visitors. And the greatest stars can experience a roller coaster ride while traveling through my food pipe. My all organs are over the moon just to welcome those visitors. Thank you.
Anyone else?
രോമാഞ്ചം കുളിർമ കോരിക്കുമൊരീ രോമാഞ്ചം മനതാരിലൊരു ഇമ്പമായി പൂത്തുലയുന്നൊരിഷ്ടമായൻ നാവിൻ തുമ്പത്തെ രസമുകുളങ്ങളെ രസിപ്പിച്ചു കൊതിക്കുമൊരു മഞ്ഞുകട്ടയാം ഐസ്ക്രീം.
Thank you.
It's about gulab jamun things. Just a plain ball of fried dough was tasteless, textureless and plain, was thrown into you getting high, with a sweet in you made me get climbed, to be the most enjoyed one in the world, for like how your love made me heard.
Thank you. Good. See how food or food memories. Okay.
It's about a rose milk. It was a sweety June day in Madurai, where my food circuited throughout the city. Sweats rushed through every veins, making my body parched. No wonder eyes hunted for a drink, to quench, or to sip, or to swallow, or to gulp. Milky rose flashed my heart. My food reached the stall, hands grabbed the cold little bottle, screwed the lid. Rosy milk reached the throat throughout, emitting the rays of sweet and contentment, sending the pleasant chills throughout the body.
Try to spend some time to lull your memories, to think about your thoughts regarding your food. It is an important aspect of creative writing. You could come up with excellent poems and short stories if you are ready. So that is one aspect, the creative aspect of food memories. There is another aspect, we will discuss that. During the COVID period, there was this particular course in the Coursera. This program is offered by Yale University. There is this Professor Lori Sandoz who gave this program. The name of that course is The Science of Well-Being. I don't know whether anybody amongst you have taken this particular course. I took that course. As part of the course, the professor used to give one particular assignment. That is, you try to keep a gratitude journal. You dedicate a journal or a diary and think about your past. Think about the daily events that happened in your life. And think about those people or those moments where you feel a kind of sense of thankfulness, sense of contentment, sense of gratitude when you think about those people. Try to write it down. It may be certain people, it may be certain moments, certain time that somebody had spent with you. Think about them and write it down. You narrate those memories as as a story. Then if you're doing that daily, at the end of a week, you will get a good, kind of narrative. And that should be your gratitude journal. So when I was doing that exercise, suddenly I started thinking about my grandmothers, my maternal grandmother and paternal grandmother. Both of them are not with me now, but the only thing that is connecting them with me is the food memories. Then I started writing all the food memories. I think that is the greatest healers in the world. The memories could nourish you. When you think that you have a purpose in your life, they will give a sense of purpose in your life, these memories. So try to identify your food memories. Again, as I told you, this could be somebody who has prepared a sumptuous meal for you, or somebody who has given a cup of tea, or something that you nourished at one point of time, and that event is over, and you are also moving forward. But now when you think about somebody, if it is a food memory, try to narrate it as a story. Sometimes the food that, for example, one particular food step, let it be a sambar that your mother is making. You don't have some sort of passion for that sambar, but you may prefer the sambar that your grandma is preparing, or you may be preferring the sambar that your auntie is preparing. Think about them. So there are certain food memories with which some of our traumas could be healed, but we should give a chance to those memories to work on us. That could be, an act of healing. So I'll give you certain passages from those novels that I, told you in the very beginning. You please have a look at those passages. It is not something related to healing, but, we will look at those samples one by one. So this is just a passage from the novel The Bastard of Istanbul by Elif Shafak. Here, this particular, the narrator, she is visiting a shop. She likes to purchase a tea set. It goes like this. While she sat there talking, her eyes nonchalantly scanned the shelves until they locked onto a glass tea set. That too was among the list of the things she could not resist buying. Tea glasses with gilded stars and thin, delicate spoons and brittle saucers with gilded bells around the bellies. There already must be at least 30 different glass tea sets at home, all bought by her. But there was no harm in buying another set, for they broke so easily. This is just a material object. Sometimes, as Anjali has told you, certain objects in certain kitchen spaces will affect us. You think about your parents or your grandparents, how they keep or preserve certain antiques, certain, as family ancestral thing, they will preserve a tea set or a crockery set, very preciously. They are not, we have this very dirty habit of preserving the best for the guest. We always have this habit. So my son used to quarrel, like, Mama, why can't you take that, tea set? So when I tell him that this is for the guest, I am your guest, consider me as the guest. Consider me as the most precious person. Serve the tea in that tea set. he used to tell me, now the kids are like that. They need the best. There is nothing like preserving for the guest. So there are people who have this, what should I say, obsession for buying and preserving. They won't touch it. They clean it. Every Sunday they clean it. Okay, they dust it off. Okay, they preserve it in a very precious manner. Here also we could find that the narrator, already there are a lot of tea sets in her house, but still she is buying. There is a connection. It is not with the food stuff. It is with a tea set. Again, a food is a food which is invisible there to connect that material thing. So quite often it is considered as a sin to give that much of importance to such material things. So you think about those memories where, say, these type of material things, let it be a seated, let it be a rice pot, all these things are connecting us to our memories about our very close ones. There is one more sample I could give you. This is the story that I have mentioned in the morning, simple recipes. So it goes like this. You know, this is a dining situation that happened in a dining table. So there is this father, mother, the son and daughter. We sat in silence, scraping our spoons across the dishes. My parents used chopsticks, lifting their bowls and motioning the food into the mouth. The smell of food fills the room. Savoring each mouthful, my father eats slowly. So this here we could see how these four members, how they are treating the food. So for the father, he is eating slowly. Then what he is doing is, he is head tuned to the flavors in his mouth. My mother takes her glasses off, the lenses forked, and lays them on the table. She eats with her head bowed down as if in prayer. So the way in which the parents approach the food. Next is the brother, the son. Lifting a stem of cauliflower to his lips, my brother sighs deeply. He chews and then his face changes. I have a sudden picture of him drowning, his hair waving like grass. He coughs, spitting the mouthful back onto his plate. Another cough, it reaches for his throat, choking. So this is the response of the son. See, this is a dinner which was prepared by the father. During the process of the preparation, he established some sort of connection with the food that he is preparing. And he is expecting the same sort of connection with those people who are consuming the food. The mother has that reaction. Even the daughter has the same reaction. But the son is a little bit thankless. It is not exactly thanklessness, but that lack of mindfulness. Because he hates cauliflower. He hates all those food stuff that his father forces him to eat. So the next moment what happens is, my father slams his chopstick down on the table. In a single movement, he reaches across, grabbing my brother by the shoulder. I have tried, he is saying. I don't know what kind of son you are to be so ungrateful. His other hand sweeps by me and buries into my brother's face. So this is where the dinner table or the dining space, which is supposed to be a space of contentment, supposed to be a space of healthy relationship, turned to be a space of violence. And that gives only instances of trauma. So from the brother's point of view, this is a traumatic experience. My dinner I used to have with my parents. It is an instance of a trauma. But when you look at the daughter, he considers each experience as an empowering thing. For her, it is some sort of a healing. Okay, so this is the difference. Next. This is the last one, right? Okay, so one last example. This is from Murakami's novel. And this passage we could find in the initial chapters. So what happens here is husband and wife. The husband very recently resigned his job, and he is waiting for his wife to join for the dinner. So this is how it is written. But that day was an exception. She was still, his wife, she was still not home after 7, and there was no coal. The meat and vegetables were ready and waiting, so that I could cook them the minute she came in. Note that I had a great feast in mind. I would be stir-frying thin slices of beef, onions, green peppers, and bean sprouts with a little salt, pepper, soy sauce, and a splash of beer. A recipe from my bachelor days. The rice was done, the miso soup was warm, and the vegetables were all sliced and arranged in separate piles in a large dish, ready for the work. Only Kumiku was missing. I was hungry enough to think about cooking my own portion and eating alone, but I was not ready to make this move. He waited for the wife to join, and when the story proceeds, we could see that they are having dinner together. But the preparation, when you look at the preparation, the husband who is eagerly waiting for the wife to join in so that they can have a dinner together. Here he mentions about, that waiting. He could have narrated it as just, I am waiting for my wife to prepare the dinner. Instead of that, he is giving the recipe. It is building the situation, and also it speaks about the narrator's idea about the preparation of dinner for his wife. So when you look at many of the food narratives, what exactly is the role of food is, it is not representation. It builds up the plot. Next one is, it represents, or it makes clear to us who the character is, or what sort of a character the character is. Okay, so this is the next exercise. Even if you are not doing it now, try to take it as a daily exercise. It will really empower you. It will help in your creative writing. Dedicate at least 30 minutes every day to do this exercise. Think about your near ones. Think about your best friend. Think about the food spaces that you have visited. Think about any food memory. Let it be, as Elif Shafak has mentioned, let it be a glass, let it be a tea set, let it be a dinner set, or any restaurant, or the kitchen, or the dining table, or something related to the kitchen, or something related to any food that you had together with your loved one. Think about those memory. Or try to think about how your grandmother used to prepare the most, the tastiest kind of anything. Okay, think about those moments for some time. Try to write it down. When you finish writing, you will be crying. You will cry, and that cry, that tears, it's not a tear, of remorse, but you will cry for joy. So that will give, a sense of happiness, because you are reminding them, you are thinking about them. These memories will rejuvenate some sort of hope in us to look forward. So try to do it as an exercise. So I'm just doing this as a sort of social experiment. So I'll tell you that from my own experience, I have tried, because when I took that particular course, I was thinking about how to connect with my grandmothers through the food memories. I started writing it down, and later I could see that it is, sometimes you will write it, all of us have this sense of humor, but the way in which we reveal our sense of humor will vary from person to person. So again, just like writing a poem, this will also help in pruning our creativity, our creative writing. So try to practice it. So these are the two experiments that we could do. as part of connecting our daily life and the food memories. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I was fascinated by this topic, right? Cuisine literature. In the recent years, we have never found such a kind of, topic. Actually, I came to know about this seminar only yesterday. My colleague informed me there is a seminar in WCC, and the topic is yet different. I just asked for the topic, what's the topic? And she told me that it's cuisine literature. Yeah, actually, I too was fascinated to hear that, and I turned up. There were some obstacles in coming over here, but still we made it possible, right? And today when I turned up here, I just saw 3 eminent personalities who are well versed in this area, right? And began the session by telling that food is the base of human life. Of course, do you agree with this? Do you all agree to this? I do agree. Of course, people, we know that in our locale, normally when you go for a marriage function, people used to say, first we will be thinking about the food, right? No response. Is that no? Right? Okay. So, usually we used to do the same, right? First we will be thinking, even if when I am telling my son, he will be asking, what's that? It's whether it is rice, biryani, or a fried rice. If it's a biryani or a fried rice, then I will be coming. If not, I won't be turning up. That's what he will be telling, right? As such, we people are much more involved with this kind of different kinds of food, right? So he started by telling that food is the base. So I'm not taking up much of your time, okay? But still, I think I must give a little bit of feedback. So that's why ma'am asked me to do so. And so here sir said that food is the base of human life. And not only that, he also said that how far food culture and literature is interconnected. Yes. Then I do agree with GIGY ma'am's stating that food plays a vital role in healing. Of course, food heals us. Right? At times when you are really depressed or something, the kind of food, just imagine, as I just gave a poem on ice cream or a chocolate, what you love to have, right? When you are depressed at that state, when you are having such kind of, you are likable, surely you will be feeling happy. So it's a kind of healing. I do agree with you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for that. And then Anjali ma'am also elaborated on cooking without sound and color, right? She just gave us clippings also, video clippings also, highlighting that. Then she also highlighted on food and gender. Then we saw a video clipping. A man was making out kind of dishes and serving his 3 daughters, right? So on the whole, and ma'am just asked us to write poem also. So she made people to bring out their creative talents, right? So on the whole, let me conclude by telling that it was really fascinating. I enjoyed the day. Really, it's a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I invite Ms. S.P. Ashika, research scholar, St. Hindu College, Nagercoil, to give her feedback.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to introduce myself as a proud alumni of this college. So coming back to this college after doing my UG here, it feels like homecoming for me. And when I learned about this particular seminar, I was also fascinated by the topic very much because this is definitely a new area for all of us. And the department has definitely, succeeded in bringing 3 eminent personalities to, discuss about this topic. And from a personal context, I would like to say that particularly me doing my research on indigenous studies, this topic helped me to relate a lot with indigenous cuisine. Okay, all the topics which they discussed, it helped me to relate much better with all the elements which I'm discussing in my research as well. So this seminar was altogether, to put it in a single word, it was top-notch, organized perfectly, and I should definitely mention the hospitality offered by the department, and special mention for the mint lemon which you served in between, taking into account of the climatic conditions. You have definitely done that as well. So I thank the department for giving me this opportunity, and I thank the entire organizing committee for organizing such a fruitful event. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would also like to invite the audience to share their thoughts and feedback on today's session. Please come forward if you wish to speak. Now, I request Dr. Chrissy Gracelyn David, Assistant Professor, Department of English, to distribute the certificates.
For transforming this one-day seminar, one-day literary seminar into a literary food fest. Thank you so much, ma'am. So as I call the names of the colleges, I just need one representative from each college to come and receive your certificates. Sarah Tucker College, Palayamkottai. Yeah, may I request our principal and the dignitaries on the dais to give away the certificates. Sarah Tucker College, Palayamkottai. St. Hindu College, Nagercoil. St. Hindu College, Nagercoil. Muslim Arts and Science College, Thiruvananthapuram. Muslim Arts and Science College, Thiruvananthapuram. Holy Cross College, Nagercoil. Sri Devi Kumari Women's College. Scott Christian College, Nagercoil. St. Jude's College, Thuthur. Kumarakoval. MS University Extension Center. WCC Research Scholars, WCC Aided Stream,
Faculty of English Department and Organizing Secretary of this national seminar to deliver the vote of thanks.
I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Good evening to all. I extend my thanks to the correspondent in absentia. Next, I am indebted to thank our beloved principal in charge, Dr. D. Usha. Thank you so much, ma'am, for considering our request and sparing your valuable time amidst hectic schedule. Thank you, ma'am. I request our beloved HOD to give away the memento. The department on the whole. She is none other than the head of the department, Dr.J.Subitha Persis. Through her valuable suggestions and counsel, she has guided me throughout all the arrangements that had been made for the success of the seminar. Thank you so much, ma'am. I am very pleased to thank the crew that made our day. Dr. JOCKIM is an expert in ELT and translation studies. To his credit, he has published a number of articles and he is a renowned guide in our university. His keynote address inspired almost everyone who attended the seminar. Thank you, sir, in absentia, for illuminating the young minds with your speech. Next, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the eminent personality we are blessed to have with us today. Dr.GIGY JLX is a foodie, gastronome, and a faculty at the Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, Thiruvananthapuram. Dear ma'am, we feel fortunate to listen to your first presentations on culinary narratives. You took us back to our family and other literary texts worldwide. The area being new to most of us, your fascinating presentation will create more researchers in cuisine literature in near future. It was an aha moment for us. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for accepting our invitation. Thank you so much. I request our beloved principal to give away the memento. And this Ms. ANJALI AR, Research Fellow at All Saints College, Thiruvananthapuram. Winner of JRF, GATE, Aspire scholarships, Ms. ANJALI pursues her doctoral research under the guidance of Dr.GIGY. Ms. ANJALI, your session was indeed motivational. You will be adored by our youth, and all our participants will cherish the thoughts you shared with them. Thank you for creating such a visual treat. Thank you, Ms. ANJALI, for accepting our invitation. I have to thank Gigi ma'am again, because it was she who advised me to call her to be one of the resource persons today. Thank you, ma'am. I request our HOD to give away the memento. I thank all those participants, both staff and students from almost 15 colleges in and around Nagercoil as well as in Tirunelveli. Thank you, dear ones, for attending our seminar. There are 114 participants, okay, both staff and students. Okay. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much, said Helen Keller once. This is what I want to say to my dear colleagues. We all did so much together. Thank you all my friends who worked and sacrificed your time for the success of the seminar. Thank you all. Next, I thank Mr. Jacking for the perfect operation of sound system, and Mr. Anish and co for video recording. I have to thank Mr. Stephen Lasser for sponsoring the files, notepads and pens. Then I thank the ELA office bearers and other student volunteers and my dear students from both regular and self-financing departments. I am indebted to thank the non-teaching staff who helped me in arranging everything. I am indeed thankful to those who were behind the screen, from making of badges to making of food. Thank you, dear ones. I thank everyone once again. Thank you all.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे